Hello and welcome to Japan Explained. If, like me, you love to sing, you've probably tried karaoke at least once. But even if it's not your thing, karaoke is one of those Japanese words that everyone just happens to know. And yes, it's pronounced karaoke. Kara means empty, and oke is short for orchestra, a Japanese way of saying orchestra. So karaoke means musical accompaniment devoid of vocals, but you probably already know that. While there are plenty of karaoke bars in Europe, they've never really caught my attention. So my singing was reserved for some old karaoke CDs at grandma's house, or more often than not, the cozy windowsill in my room, which I shared with two speakers that played whichever song I wanted on repeat. In Japan, things suddenly changed. If you go to a company party or just hang out with friends, chances are you'll end up in one of the karaoke booths singing that old Evangelion song that nobody loves but everybody knows, so it's just destined to be played first. And within a week of being in the country, I ended up in Jankara joint, struggling through the hiragana and katakana of my favorite anime songs. Really helps with language learning, by the way. And so began the never-ending series of karaoke parties. But enough about me. One thing you can learn from this story is that karaoke boxes are much more popular in Japan than karaoke bars. Why is that? And how did karaoke become such a worldwide phenomena? Short answer, because it's great, of course. But you probably want a longer one, so let me explain karaoke to you. Throughout human history, people have always loved to sing. They sang to their gods, to their friends and families, they sang at parties and at war. But since not everyone is born with the magical ability to sing a cappella, most of us humans sing when there is music. So it's not surprising that in 1961, when television was still black and white, but most people in the developed world already had one, American viewers were enchanted by the show Sing Along with Mitch Miller. Hosted by Mitch Miller and featuring the male chorus, the program encouraged viewers to sing along. The lyrics were right there at the bottom of the screen. And this, some people say, is the origin of karaoke. But sadly, it is not. To put it simply, karaoke is not something to listen to. It is a tool to help you. And Mitch's show could have easily been enjoyed on its own. You could sing along, but you didn't really have to. The chorus did that for you. Since the origins of karaoke don't wait for us in the USA, let's go back to Japan, where American popular culture flooded in after the Second World War. And so jukeboxes came to Japan. They never became as popular here as they were in the US, but in the 1950s and early 60s, there were several attempts to turn jukeboxes into singing machines by connecting one to a microphone. This didn't change the fact that they still played songs with vocals. In 1967, Yamachiku, a record store in Kanazawa, collaborated with Japan Victor to produce Music-1 singles of popular songs and sold them to clubs equipped with Victor jukeboxes, into which Yamachiku attached a microphone. Soon, National, another major electronics manufacturer, joined Yamachiku in releasing the same kind of singles, and the business lasted for about 10 years. But this was not karaoke either. It was Music-1 played on a jukebox. And while the trend lasted for some time, it had two major disadvantages for the user. The music was way too difficult for the average semi-drunk bar patron, and the jukebox itself couldn't hold many songs, so the selection was very limited. Jukeboxes were also way too bulky for the tiny Japanese bars. However, the solution to this problem came in 1968, when a man called Hamazaki Iwao came up with the idea of combining a jukebox with an 8-track continuous loop cartridge. complete with a microphone mixer and coin-operated timer so that bar patrons could play and sing alone. The invention was called the mini juke. But that was also not the beginning of karaoke, the strict scholars tell me. Karaoke, they say, is intended for the general public, with accompanying music deliberately arranged for amateurs in terms of key, tempo, structural duration, and so on. So, music -1 in any form doesn't count. And so we move on to the 1970s. At the time, TV music shows were at the height of their popularity in Japan, and there were plenty of them. Some featured famous musicians, while others gave the spotlight to ordinary people. Singing on TV like popular stars was now an achievable dream. The problem was, and still is, that Japanese homes are not designed for loud noises, including singing and playing music. So people went to bars where they could sing with a lone guitarist or even a band. That was expensive for the bars, and that's why the mini juke and other early inventions aimed at replacing the band with the machine were so popular. And it was in a bar that our story really began. Inoue Daisuke was a musician working in Kobe, and he had a great skill for the job. He could instantly adjust his playing to the key and tempo of any singer, so he was in great demand. But Inoue was not just a musician. He and his 5 colleagues ran a small record company called Music Crescent, which released pre-recorded music loop cartridges to bars that had installed car stereo decks but were not yet connected to cable radio. After Expo 70 in Osaka, cable radio penetrated the area, drastically reducing Music Crescent's clientele. So, Inoue and the others were forced to work as musicians to make ends meet. One day, one of their regular customers approached Inoue and asked him to record a few tracks to take on corporate outing, where he intended to entertain the employees with his singing. The tape was a success. The customer was so pleased with the recording, which was adapted to his way of singing, that he ordered additional tapes of his favorite songs, and Inoue sensed a business opportunity. Then the story goes 2 ways. One, soon after, a friend showed Inoue the newly developed hybrid of a jukebox and a car stereo, and Inoue decided to give his idea a try. The second, Inoue decided to follow through with his idea and asked a friend to help him with the device to play his music. The result was the same. Inoue and his friends and colleagues from Music Crescent started working on their new project. They recorded a few tapes of their musical performances, adapted for amateur singers, and built a machine to play them. It was small, but had speakers, a microphone with mixing and echo controls, a coin slot, and a timer. 5 minutes of playback for 100 yen. It was a very smart move. Songs at the time were on average 3.5 minutes long, so to finish the second song you had to put in another coin. To allow users to select the song and play it from the beginning at the press of a button, something regular cassettes couldn't do, they used 8-track tapes. The system was completed in 1971. The first 10 boxes, called Crescent Juke, with 12 8-song tapes each, were leased to bars. The initial cost to the bar was low, while the monthly payments allowed the company to continue to produce tapes for the lineup. Soon, Crescent was receiving more than 50 orders a month, but the system was never patented, so new players were free to enter the market. As for the lyrics, they were handwritten and photocopied. To prevent them from being damaged, they were inserted into vinyl albums. And this was a development that Inoue actually patented in 1974. In 1973, the Crescent people began working with T&M, a newly formed karaoke manufacturer. They discovered that amateur singers did not pay much attention to sound quality, so they doubled the number of songs that could be recorded on an 8-track loop tape by recording in mono instead of stereo. And as Japan's economy boomed, so did the popularity of karaoke bars, where middle-aged men gathered to unwind after work. One study also suggests that the reason for the popularity of karaoke in Japan in the 1970s was the lack of musical education in pre-war Japan. While young people born after the war expressed themselves by playing the guitar and listening or dancing to Western music, the older generation had different musical tastes, but not many people could read music or play instruments. Karaoke machines allowed people to sing even if they could not read music, and the use of an echo changer made them feel just like professionals on stage. In the mid-1970s, the major record companies in Japan, including Teichiku, King, Columbia, Toshiba EMI, Victor, and Polydor, all entered the karaoke business at once. And around the same time, karaoke was finally patented in the Philippines. A man called Roberto del Rosario developed his Sing Alone system and patented it in 1975, making him the world's only patent holder for a karaoke system. In 1978, a machine that automatically scored the pitch, tempo, and rhyme of a singer's performance on a 100-point scale was introduced and soon became a standard feature of karaoke. In 1982, the Laserdisc format was introduced. Lyrics could now be displayed directly on the screen to match the sound, with the color of the words changing to show exactly where you were in the song, and the background media to match the mood. By the mid-80s, karaoke was popular not only in Japan but all over the world. 2 decades later, Inoue Daisuke was even awarded the Ig Nobel Peace Prize for inventing karaoke and thereby providing a whole new way for people to learn to tolerate each other. That was just the beginning of karaoke's glorious journey. In Japan at the time, karaoke was reserved for bars and their clientele, mainly middle-aged men. Women, young people and children didn't go there, so a large part of the demographic was lost to the market. This was to change with the arrival of karaoke boxes. In 1985, in Okayama, all shipping containers were converted into karaoke boxes that could be booked by private groups. That's where the box in the name comes from. Since alcohol was not an essential part of the experience, the boxes became popular with the non-drinking public, young people, women, and families with kids. Soon, small karaoke rooms began to appear in leisure venues such as arcades, bowling alleys, and buildings in urban areas. So-called sober karaoke has greatly expanded the karaoke market. The industry's gross income doubled between 1986 and 1991 and doubled again in 1995 to reach 1 trillion yen. In 1991, the word karaoke appeared in the Oxford Dictionary of New Words. And a year later, a new technology, online karaoke, made its debut. New songs were sent via telephone lines or cable from host computer to the individual karaoke machines, where they were stored on the built-in hard drive. This was the karaoke revolution. Before, more songs meant more discs. Now it was all data. The size of the machine was reduced, and that meant new songs were available much faster. 1996 was the peak year for the karaoke industry. There were around 160,000 karaoke rooms in the country. Since then, however, its popularity has been slowly declining. In 2011, karaoke boxes generated 380 billion yen. Sounds like a lot, but it's 40% less than in its heyday. The reasons are obvious: a shrinking population and an ever-increasing number of entertainment options. In addition, running the business is now more expensive, while karaoke still has the image of being cheap. To stay relevant, karaoke parlors have to get creative, and that's where the special rooms come in. I couldn't find the exact year, but I'd say late noughties, early tens. Meeting rooms, children's rooms, dog rooms, or rooms for practicing musical instruments are some of the more common ones, but my favorite place in Kyoto also has a bouldering room and a skating room, and also a skeleton room, a glass aquarium that broadcasts your singing directly to unsuspecting passers-by via a pair of giant speakers. Before I get into the features of a standard karaoke parlor and how to get the most of your visit, let's look at one thing that makes the whole experience so special: the karaoke song. As I mentioned earlier, nowadays all the songs available are stored on a hard drive inside the karaoke machine. On average, you have 150,000 songs to choose from, a huge improvement from original 48. In addition, around 1,000 new songs are added to the system every month. A few megabytes here and there add up pretty quickly, so the size of the data is really important. And you'll be surprised how small the karaoke songs are. That's because a popular song undergoes a major transformation before it ends up in the karaoke machine. First, the sound copy specialist listens to the original song and takes notes. Then, he recreates it from scratch. No audio data is sampled from the source material. Record companies also don't provide any sheet music or lyrics. So, the sound copy specialist would start by memorizing the rhyme and structure of the song and then write sheet music for it. When this is done, he moves on to writing his own version of the song. Using an electric piano with pre-installed instruments, he selects the best matches. First, the melody is recreated, then other instruments are added to create the feeling of the original song. This process takes anywhere from 2 days to a week, depending on the complexity of the original record. At the end, we get the melody you hear in karaoke, adapted for the amateur singers, simplified, and weighted about 300 times less than the original. For example, a 30 megabyte record would be transformed into just 150 kilobyte karaoke melody. Next is the turn of the subtitling specialists. And I never realized it, but there are some strict rules that karaoke subtitles have to follow. Each line can only contain 11 characters or symbols, and a maximum of 4 lines can be displayed at once. Once all the lyrics are divided into lines, it's time to adjust the position of the subtitles on the screen, decide on the timing, and place color marks to indicate when each character should be sung, so that the subtitles change color with the music. The secret is that the moving marker should be 0.1 to 0.3 seconds ahead of the timing of the vocal in the original. Titles are then added to the video. For songs with a guide vocal, the vocal artist is also engaged, and then and only then will the song be sent to the karaoke machine. Now that everything's ready for you to visit karaoke, let's have a look at what a typical Japanese karaoke looks like today. As you already know, there are 2 categories of karaoke venues in Japan: bars and boxes. In bars, which are usually quite small, you drink and sing in front of other people. There's a karaoke machine, but you don't operate it yourself. You ask the person in charge to play your song. You probably won't go to a bar alone. Chances are you'll be dragged there by colleagues who aren't your age and don't share your taste in music. But it's a bar, so singing isn't really the main purpose of the visit anyway. In theory, you come to drink, socialize, and strengthen group bonds. In practice, it doesn't always work out that way. In karaoke booths, you can order food and drinks, but singing is the main attraction. Usually, you don't want to take your colleagues here. Instead, go with friends, classmates, or anyone else who shares your taste in music. You don't want to make the mistake of bringing that one person who chooses K-pop songs as your rock party or screams heavy metal while everyone else is singing along to the latest idol group hits. And while it's all form of socializing, conversations are rare. Not that they are forbidden, but they are naturally avoided. While bars are only open at night, boxes cater to a wider demographic and are usually open from 11 a.m. until dawn. And since singing is the main attraction, you pay for it. Karaoke boxes are priced per 30 minutes per person. Your room is usually small, but it's soundproof and private. You won't look stupid in front of strangers and can choose any songs you like. Why can't I sing what I want in the bar? You might ask from a Western perspective, but trust me, you don't want to show your inner geek to your colleagues in Japan. It's too personal and therefore in bad taste. And that's why in Japan and in Asia in general, karaoke boxes are far more popular than karaoke bars. They are cozy and almost homely, so you can relax. You can even come alone if you don't want to meet anyone that day. And this option is becoming increasingly popular. Once you've decided which type of venue suits you best, it's time to visit one. There is not much to say about visiting a karaoke bar, apart from the advice to drink in moderation and not to miss the last train. But when it comes to karaoke boxes, there are a few things that will make your visit way more enjoyable. Firstly, the time of your visit is very important. While weekday afternoons tend to be less crowded and less expensive, evenings and especially Friday and Saturday nights are the very busy and the most expensive time. You may not get the room or karaoke system you want. Queuing is also not fun and can sometimes take hours, so you may want to book in advance to save time. Now you are in a karaoke parlor and you have to choose a room. You don't have any say in the size of the room you want. You'll get what suits your number of people and what's available. But what you can usually choose is whether your room is smoking or non-smoking. Yes, smoking indoors is still considered normal in Japan, so make sure you've got the right room. Then comes the best part, choosing the karaoke system. Most karaoke machines in Japan have one of two, Joy Sound or Live Drum. Joy Sound has a better interface and some fun features, but the songs are made for beginners. Live Drum, on the other hand, doesn't look great, even in its latest releases, but the songs sound much closer to the original. They are also harder to sing, so choose a system that suits your ability. It isn't a competition, it's all about having fun. Also, both systems have English, Chinese, Korean, and some French, German, or Italian songs, so don't worry if you can't read Japanese. When you enter the room, you'll see a very standard set of things. A TV, a karaoke machine with a touchscreen remote control, with language settings by the way, a food ordering machine, and 2 microphones, disinfected and packed in plastic bags. Take a trip to the drink bar, which is usually included in the price, sit comfortably and have a closer look at the remote control in front of you. First, choose your language. Most devices are available in Japanese, English, Chinese, and Korean. Then, choose your first song. This can be a challenge, so you can use the same remote control or your smartphone to create an account. Pick your favorite songs and make a list. Next time, you won't have to struggle to remember song and artist names. Popular music lists are also there to help. Plus, they give you some safe choices. If you're not sure what to choose when you find yourself in karaoke box with colleagues or just with friends whose musical tastes you don't know yet, choose something from the popular list. Japan is all about protecting your privacy and giving you socially acceptable choices. So yes, there are safe songs in karaoke. Once the song is chosen, you can adjust the key, speed, or volume of the microphone and music. Most people don't touch these buttons, but give it a try and you'll see how much better you sound when you're not reaching for notes you can't reach. You can also change your voice. Some people love it, some hate it, so don't play with it when other people are singing unless you're absolutely sure they're happy with it. Another thing you can set using the remote control is the automatic scoring system. And these days, the same machine will probably have a few to choose from. You can choose to skip the scoring altogether, or you can opt in. And if you choose the classic scoring at the end of the song, it will not only show you when you've got the notes right, but also the length of your vibrato, pitch, rhyme, expressiveness, and consistency. It will also tell you if the song is in your range, or if you should try something higher or lower next time. You can also choose to be compared with other people across the country, and it always feels good to be above the average or even in the top something. With the scoring function delegated to the machine, no one else will ever try to judge your singing. You sing, people applaud. People sing, you applaud. And while we're on the subject, there are a few other rules you should follow in karaoke, whether it's a box or a bar. Rule number 1, take turns and don't pick 2 or more songs in a row unless you've agreed to do so beforehand. Rule number 2, don't choose the same song twice. Always check what people have chosen before you place your order. If someone else had chosen the song you wanted, maybe ask them if they'd like to sing it together instead. This is to avoid competition, but also so people can keep their mochi-uta. So yes, rule number 3. You don't sing someone else's mochi-uta. Mochi-uta is a song associated with a particular person in the group. My friends would never choose One Ok Rock's Kaimu or Bon Jovi's It's My Life when I'm here. And I know that Mia sings K-On! Songs, Taylor Swift is Only for Betty, and Ayama always gets to sing that song from Macross. Rule number 4, never boo. It doesn't matter how bad someone is, you applaud. If they want to know how good or bad they are, they'll ask the machine. Then comes the last rule I briefly mentioned earlier. You don't pick hard rock songs when everyone else is picking light pop. Respect the mood. Of course, again, if mashups are what you do in your group, go ahead. Don't want to follow the rules or need to practice? Sing alone. Because you're not alone. Since 2008, solo booths have been on the rise. While not every karaoke venue have them, a typically solo room is only about 1.5 to 2 square meters in size. It's basically a big cupboard. There is only enough room for the TV, a table with some equipment, and a place for you to stand or sit. But it looks kind of like a recording studio you see in the movies. You get the music through the headphones, and the microphone is usually of better quality. Since being a good singer in a group earns you popularity points in Japan, many people come to practice new songs before performing them in front of the audience. What's more, the usual karaoke rules don't apply to solo boxes, so you can sing the same song over and over again, choose any song you like and mix it up however you like. So, yes, while everywhere else, people are trying to come out of the closet, the Japanese are more comfortable getting into one. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Japan Explained. Please let me know your favorite karaoke songs and your experiences with karaoke in general. I look forward to hearing from you on japanexplained.com or my Instagram page. Talk to you soon. Bye!